What's good, everybody? It's Friday. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me know you're live in the chats. Come on in. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm doing all right. Not too bad. Got some cool stuff going on. All right. Let's get this thing started. Okay. So it is Friday. We've got a lot going on in the news. I'm going to talk about some good stuff. And actually, thank you, Arnold. Happy Friday to you too. I'm actually going to, start with something that I wasn't planning on doing, but somebody sent me something and I have to at least say something about it, a little something. But before I go into everything, please like this video, share this video. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you will be informed whenever I go live or whenever I upload a new video. I actually just uploaded a brand new interview with none other than Felicia Killings about the things that she's doing and the projects that she's got going on. It's going to be awesome. What's up, Endgame? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. If you want to support my work, join my online community at afreshperspective.locals.com. It's only $5 per month, and you'll get access to premium content. And also, if you want to do a one-time donation, you can do so here, and it's also in the show notes. Also, you can also do a super chat while I'm doing this live stream. Every little bit is appreciated. Love you all. And also want to remind you, okay, yeah, there we go. Yep. Also want to remind you that LibertyNation.com is a proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. Check out LibertyNation.com for all of your conservatarian news, original articles and analysis, videos, podcasts, Liberty Nation Radio, and their signature TV program, The Conservative 5, all on LibertyNation.com, conservative news where truth matters. I'm just going to play a clip. And like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this, but actually Felicia is the one that sent it to me, so you can blame her. Now, I'm not going to go deep dive on this. I'm going to wait until tomorrow or Sunday to do a reaction to that. So, but I at least want to give you like a preview of what's going on here. So let me just pull this up really quick. And I'm going to play this for y'all. Oh, wait. There we go.
Today. Well, for voting rights. Can you tell me why we're out here today? Well, for voting rights. Right now, they're disenfranchising a whole lot of people right now. And at this point in time, it's been how many years? This happened in 1965. And we're still fighting for the same thing. Enough is enough. We're out here for reparations. We're out here for voting rights. We're out here for minimum wage, a thriving living wage. And if we're not out here fighting and disrupting civil disobedience, who else is going to do it?
One thing we did right. One day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on.
Can you tell me why we're out here today?
Okay. So this is what's going on. People are protesting. This whole voting rights thing has been in the media. I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times. And it makes absolutely no sense. But I will say that the Democrats have done their job well. They have conned a lot of these people into actually thinking that they're fighting for the same thing that Black people were fighting for during the civil rights movement. And it is absurd. There's no logic to this at all. And they know it, which is why they're using Jim Crow to manipulate people. So I'm going to talk about this more this weekend. This is like the height of gullibility. Like, I'm not going to call them stupid. What they're doing is stupid. But I think that they're just being taken in by what the Democrats are saying. And this is what happens when the Republican Party has bad messaging about what it's doing. But I can't even blame this all on the Republicans, because even if they had better messaging, people would still be falling for this stuff. So yeah, this is what we're up against here. We've got people getting so easily fooled for no good reason. I mean, because even just a modicum of research would show them that what they're talking about is not true, and they don't do it. So anyway, I'm going to get into the first thing here. And I'm going to talk about Governor Andrew Cuomo again, just what's going on there. And, when I look at this situation, I was thinking about, the hashtag Me Too movement and how that has progressed since, a few years ago when it started with Harvey Weinstein and the allegations against him and the fact that, it was an open secret what he was doing to these women. And with Andrew Cuomo, like the evolution of that movement has gone in such a way that I think it might be dead now, or at least very close to it. And I think its real death started in 2018, whenever Kavanaugh happened. And they used false allegations to try to stop Kavanaugh from being appointed to the Supreme Court. You all know the story. But even then, it was more on life support. I mean, it was still a thing. People were still talking about it, but just not as much. But I think the Kavanaugh hearings left a really bad taste in people's mouths. And I think this will too, for several reasons. Now, you already know what happened on Tuesday. Letitia James gave her report, finding that there were plenty of allegations against Governor Cuomo. About 11 women came forward to discuss how he had sexually harassed and in some cases sexually assaulted them. Now, this whole thing placed the Democrats, especially in New York, in a bit of a quandary, because normally when politics is involved, it would result in somebody like Cuomo being defended or trying to sweep it under the rug. You saw what they did with the nursing home scandal. I mean, they downplayed that as much as they could. The activist media didn't go very, very hard on it. And now they're in a position where now they have sexual assault allegations. And they seem credible. Like, this isn't a situation where it seems like some of them could be lying or their stories aren't quite adding up. And we've seen this happen to people on both sides. Sometimes people come forward and their stories are a little bit fishy, and you're just not sure whether you can believe it or not. But the Democrats are the ones who always say you believe all women. Now, we already know they don't really believe that, because when it happens to one of their own, they don't automatically believe them. Some do, but most don't, unless the evidence is such that they can't deny it. Like, a lot of them like to tout Al Franken. Well, we got rid of Al Franken. Yeah, there was a picture of him fondling somebody. There were numerous women that came out talking about how he groped them. You had to get rid of them. But at this point, the quandary comes in with the fact that Governor Cuomo is not going to step down. He has indicated the opposite. He is still denying these allegations. And even though there are a lot of people who were in his circle who are running away from him now because they don't want to be attached to him, he seems intent on riding this thing out for as long as they possibly can. Even with President Joe Biden coming out and saying that they need to get rid of him, or that Cuomo should be stepping down, he's still staying in office. So the bottom line is he's not leaving until he is being forced. They're going to have to drag him kicking and screaming out of that building, which means that we have to talk about the I word. Does the state's Democrat-dominated legislature have the political will to move forward with impeachment proceedings? That's the question that everybody's asking, and that's the question that's going to be on everyone's mind until we actually have an answer. Now, there have been at least 3 Democratic state lawmakers who have signaled, actually, there's been more than that at this point. There are a lot who have signaled that they would be willing to oust Cuomo through impeachment proceedings. In fact, I want to say that as of today, most Democrats in the assembly have signaled that they would be willing to impeach Cuomo if he refuses to leave office. Let's see. I was gonna go over something here. That's okay. All right. But yeah, a lot of them are signaling in that direction. And a lot of Democrats do believe he should be impeached. And even voters in New York, I saw a poll earlier today, a majority want him gone. And like I've said before, it's kind of sad that it took something like this to want people to actually remove him from office, and not the fact that he made a stupid decision that resulted in the deaths of elderly people. Now, here's the thing. If they don't impeach him, or even if they launch impeachment proceedings and they don't succeed and he remains in office, what does this mean for the Me Too movement? I mean, it doesn't sound like it has a level of influence anymore. And if somebody like Cuomo, who has 11 credible allegations, or 11 women with credible allegations against him, and they can't even remove him from office, on top of the fact that he got people killed, that says that the Me Too movement is pretty much done. And like I said, it hasn't been at the front and center of the national conversation because we haven't had a high-profile case like this since Brett Kavanaugh. And like I said, I think that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But if they can't even remove a politician who has exhibited the level of sleaze that this guy has displayed, then it's almost impossible to take the movement seriously anymore, which is sad, because I think when the hashtag first started circulating and the group Time's Up was formed, or I think it was actually formed before that, but it had a lot more credibility because it was actually going after people who actually did the wrong thing, like Harvey Weinstein and others. But then you got these famous people who came in and started politicizing it. And instead of it being a movement to safeguard women, it became a movement to target people that you just didn't like. It became a political weapon, and nothing more than that. That was meant to ruin careers. It was really a weapon to be used by the cancel culture community. So to make matters worse, two of the leaders who were very high up in the Me Too movement, and they're leaders of the of Time's Up, they were actually working with Cuomo to draft a letter that would be smearing and discrediting Lindsey Boylan, who was the female staffer who went on Twitter and said, yeah, Andrew Cuomo's a sleazebag, basically. She went forward talking about her experience. So not only did they not believe all women, they were participating in a process that would have attacked her. And that was all in the report that Attorney General Letitia James came out with. Now, since then, they've kind of said, oh, no, we wouldn't have been okay with attacking the victim or whatever. But there were a lot of people working with him on this. And it is evident that that these people were not really, either they weren't smart or they don't really believe what they say. Because if I was a part of a movement like Time's Up, I wouldn't be seen anywhere near Cuomo. Even if I wasn't confident that the allegations were credible. It just wouldn't make any sense, because you have way too many people making these allegations. At least some of them have to be true, right? Like, to me, if it's just one or two, okay, maybe you can get away with that. But when you've got 11, yeah, it's now you have to stretch far enough to think, okay, they're all working together and they're all lying. I think that's not very likely. Now, I did say, and here's the information here. So 82 of the state assembly's 150 lawmakers have backed opening the impeachment proceedings publicly or in comments that were given to the Associated Press and other outlets. Now, if this doesn't happen, and that's the thing, the reason why I brought up the whole Time's Up thing is because even if they do impeach him and they get him out of office, the Me Too movement might still be dead because of this. You had people working with that movement who decided to side with Cuomo. Now, as it stands today, just to explain how it would work, if the assembly does approve continuing with the impeachment proceedings, there would be a trial. The court would consist of New York State members of the Senate and 7 judges on the Court of Appeals. Now, all 7 of these judges have been appointed by Cuomo. That might not mean anything, but it's worth mentioning. The entire hullabaloo would consist of about 69 people. They would need a 2/3 majority to impeach and remove him from office. That would be 46 people. And so far, only one New York governor has been impeached. And I believe that was like 1913, around there, a long time ago. But at the same time, I think there's enough evidence here. Now, I do think it's possible that they might successfully impeach him. At first, I was like, oh, they're probably not going to do anything. But now that I'm seeing all these people coming out saying, and these are Democrats saying, yeah, we need to get rid of this guy, I'm thinking this might actually happen. And it would make sense if you think about it. Because over the past year, the Democrats and the activist media, they were pumping him up. I said on the Red and Black show that he was like their politician version of Michael Avenatti. They hyped him up. They put a lot of energy into him. They elevated him, put him on a pedestal as the anti-Trump, and then he turned out to be a gigantic sleazeball. So at this point, combined with the nursing home scandal and the fact that even outside of all this stuff, Andrew Cuomo was just kind of a douchebag. I mean, there are reports of him berating people, verbally abusing people, his staffers, even people who don't even work for him. He has this whole feud with Mayor Bill de Blasio, who I'm not a fan of, but de Blasio has said Cuomo has abused me and verbally abused members of his staff. So this is not a good guy here. So if I were the Democrats, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's a liability. We need to get rid of him. So I could see this happening. They don't gain much by protecting him anymore. And even the activist media is turning on him for that reason. I do think that this is strategic. So I would say 75 to 80% that they're at least going to initiate impeachment proceedings. I'm about 65 to 70% sure. I'll go 70%. 70% sure he gets removed, because the Democrats don't need any more of this. But like the Democrats nationally are in a very bad position right now. And somebody like Cuomo could continue making it worse. What happens if they don't remove him from office and then more allegations come out and more allegations? Are they going to try it again? Or are they going to say, well, we've already tried? That's going to make them look really bad. It would be a very strategically dumb move to protect him. So what do you guys think? Let's see what y'all got going on. Let's see. Oh, you guys aren't as active in the chat as you normally are. All right, that's cool. Arnold A. I'll believe it when I see it. I get it, because I was tempted to be skeptical at first too. And here's the thing: I'm not assuming that they're going to remove him because they think it's the right thing to do. I will say most probably are. Like, I'm not into the whole, all Democrats are horrible people. No, I'm sure a lot of them don't like what he did. But at the same time, it also makes political sense to do this. They're like I said, they have nothing to gain by protecting him. It'd be better to just get somebody else in there, as another moderate. I don't know how their line of succession would work if they impeached him. I don't know how that works with New York, but I would think at this point anybody would be better than Cuomo, right? Like I said, he's a liability. And even though the Democrats have been acting really stupid lately, they've been making a lot of stupid decisions. I don't think this will be one of them. But if it is, I will be talking about it. Getting Cuomo for sleaze is like getting Capone for tax evasion. My guess is he has made a lot of personal enemies who are pulling levers behind the scenes. I agree with that based on what I've been reading. I actually wrote an article today about the people around him who were helping him do this, who were helping him go after the victims and to help him fend off these allegations. And that was an article from the New York Times, and they actually noted that a lot of the people, like I said before, that were in his inner circle, a lot of his allies, they're turning tail and running. He has, and it's not just because of this. Like I said, the guy's a jerk. So he has alienated people who might have been willing to come to his defense. Bad idea, Governor Cuomo, because now nobody's there for him, and frankly, he doesn't deserve it. It's not. He made his own bed. I'll just say that. Like, I don't see how he gets out of this. I know he's not going to resign, but I honestly don't see the Democrats being that stupid in this case. Let's see. As the saying goes, in politics, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. That's a great point. Also goes for things that are politicized. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, they're only permanent interests. And right now, it is not in the Democrats' best interest to have him as governor. I'm wondering who Cuomo really ticked off. I think he ticked off a lot of people. Like I said, the guy was verbally abusive, so people don't like the guy. I think at this point, the only one who likes him is, his brother, Chris Cuomo, who is also should be in trouble. Although I don't think that CNN will ever fire him. I'll talk about that at another time. But CNN has no standards, so they don't care about Chris Cuomo's role in this, which was outlined in the Attorney General's report. The guy has no journalistic credibility whatsoever. And even other journalists or media activists, as I like to call them, even they are bashing him. So even if he keeps his show, his reputation is shot at this point. Megan Cox, thank you for the super chat, Megan. I appreciate it. He will never step down without being forced. Yep, you're right. And he pretty much said as much. They're going to have, like I said, they're going to have to drag him out of there. His arrogance will not let him resign. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of op-eds talking about his narcissism and all this stuff. It's amazing to see how the activist media can turn on somebody. They don't do it often when it comes to their own. But when they do, it ain't no joke. Because at that point, they have nobody defending him. Because Republicans aren't going to defend the guy. So yeah, I mean, even if he doesn't get removed, I mean, any political ambition he had is done with and gone. And Kira Davis said on the Red and Black show that, where does he go from here? The only place that he would be able to go to would be maybe president or something like that. But that's not going to happen. Not at this point. He's done. So let me get to the next subject here. I want to talk about something that's very encouraging, actually. Good news. At least if you're a conservative. If you lean left and you're watching this, you're not going to like it. But whatever, you know where I stand on stuff. So what's amazing about this story that I'm about to talk about is that it is flying under the radar. This should be getting a lot more attention, especially in right-wing media. I'm surprised that we're not covering it like this. I wrote about it, but I haven't seen many other people mention this. And maybe it'll start getting more steam and maybe it'll start getting more attention. But this is a very interesting development. So right now, you already know that there's been a movement sweeping the nation with parents and voters, and they have been confronting school boards about, critical race theory, or I'll say elements of critical race theory and wokeism being taught in the classroom. You've been seeing clips of people speaking out against it at school board meetings. You've been seeing people like myself covering it. You've been seeing people speak out against it. You've seen some people lie about it, but still, there's a consensus, at least among conservatives, and I think among rank and file people on the left too, people who vote Democrat, that they don't want this woke theology being taught in the classrooms. That people are also speaking out against mask mandates in schools. That's a big debate right now. I mean, in vaccine mandates as well. There's a big back and forth with that. But this movement has become more than just parents speaking out against school boards. There are parents running for school board all across the nation to get these people out who are trying to inject this hard leftist ideology into K through 12 classrooms. I believe in over 50 counties, you have parents who are running. And there's an organization, this is a report from ABC 12. There's an organization called Freedom Works. And I actually I'm going to try to reach out to these folks and get them on my show and see if we can get more information about them, because this needs to get out there. But this is an organization that is training parents to run for and win seats on their local school boards. They're showing them the ropes. They're letting them know how it works. They're talking to them about what they can expect. It's almost like it's an actual 6-week training. So if you're a parent, or even if you're not a parent, but you want to run for school board, they've got resources on their website. They have a 6-week, and they even have a 6-week training that can teach you the roles and responsibilities of a school board member and the different roles and positions in various in various areas of education, so that you know what you're talking about when you run. So Laura Zork, she's the director of education reform for FreedomWorks. She said, quote, if members of the school board are not listening and they are not respecting you, then it's time for parents to run the school board. That's what I'm talking about right there. Local politics. That's why this story is so great, because it shows that parents are now finally understanding that we've got to do more than just complaining about this stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody needs to run for office. We all have different abilities and different areas where we can fit in to fight for this. Like myself, I'm a content creator, I'm a writer, and I use my platform to talk about these issues and to make sure that the people who are reading and watching me understand them fully. I ain't running for office, not until I lose my mind. And that's not going to happen for another 10 years. And it probably won't happen. But that doesn't mean that I can't support people who are. It doesn't mean that I can't draw attention to this. We all have different ways that we can participate in this process. So the report on this says, quote, this academy sprang up as school board recall efforts across the country are heating up. In the first 6 months of the year, there were 50 local recall efforts of K through 12 school boards targeting more than 130 elected leaders. Now, obviously, the most contentious efforts are in Loudoun County in Virginia. So it was actually 50 local recall efforts and that I was mentioning before. But it like I said, it's targeting 130 leaders. That doesn't sound like a lot, but you also have to remember with this whole critical race theory issue, this isn't happening in most classrooms. Like most teachers aren't trying to teach this stuff. They're just trying to teach regular history. They're trying to teach the curriculum that they've been given. They're trying to teach what they've been given as far as Black history goes. Now, I'm not saying that what they're teaching about Black history is enough or what have you, or doesn't have issues. That's a whole other subject. But what I'm saying is that most teachers are not doing this wokeism, and they're not doing CRT in their classrooms. So the fact that they're targeting 130 leaders who are supporting this stuff is significant, especially since this is just in the first 6 months of this year. There will be more. I want to see I want to see parents sweeping this stuff. And I want them to get in there and say, look, what you guys are trying to teach our kids isn't good. So we're going to take you out. Now, I would also like to see them say, hey, if there's an issue with how we're teaching history, if we can be giving our students a more holistic view of American history that includes the good, the bad, and the ugly, without making America look like it's the most horrible nation that ever existed, I would rather them also come up with ideas how to fix the way it's being taught. Because I think people pretty much understand that the way it's being taught in a lot of places isn't enough. It's not doing the job. It could be improved. So I hope that these parents also come with ways to improve it instead of just saying, no, let's get rid of the CRT and just leave it exactly as it is. Because if they don't, eventually the left is going to change minds. And like I said, you have to have a competing idea. Otherwise, you only have a short-term victory. And when the left starts to change more minds over time, 5, 10, 15 years, that stuff is going to be right back in the classrooms. And now you're not going to be able to get it out because the left has actually changed hearts and minds. And you have become the minority when it comes to the battlefield of ideas. Now, in Loudoun County, the parents are trying to replace 6 of the board's members. The one parent said that normally only about 2 or 3 seats might be up for switching over or be up for contention. But parents in these communities, they are fired up and they are ready to go full bore at this. And I would imagine that it's the same in other counties as well. This is a very welcome trend. This is a positive sign. Even though I have some concerns about, taking a more long-term focus, it's got to start somewhere. And I'm glad that conservatives are starting to see that if they're going to push back against the left, it's going to take more than just posting something on social media. You got to mobilize. You got to organize. I like that I'm seeing these organizations coming up. So I've mentioned some of them on my show, and I've written about some of them, and I've actually interviewed some people from those organizations. So I like what I'm seeing here. And here's another concern. It can't stop here. It can't stop at the school level. It can't stop just in education. Like critical race theory, wokeism in the classrooms, mask mandates, these are all worthy causes to take up. And it's worth galvanizing a response. But what about other areas? where the left is trying to spread its Marxist ideology? What about when it comes to issues related to crime and local economies? What about America's other institutions, like the military? We see that they're trying to inject it there. When I was on Dana Lash's show earlier this week, and we talked about how the progressive crowd is trying to inject wokeism into the medical industry. We need people to get more involved in that area as well, at the local, state, and federal level, but especially at the local. Because if we don't, then this will only spread. And the good thing about this situation is that if it goes the way it should, and I think it will, I think a lot of these seats will change over. If that happens, now we have a template. Now we have something showing us, hey, we can actually fight back against this stuff, guys. We don't have to give up. We don't have to give up our education industry. We don't have to give up in the medical industry. We don't have to give up in the culture. I did a piece, and I was going to talk about it on Tuesday during my live stream, but I wasn't able to get to it. But the left is not winning the culture war as decisively as we might think. We tend to think that the left, since they have control of all of these institutions, the entertainment industry, education, the activist media, they control it all. Yeah, I get it. But even with all of that control and all of that influence and all of the power that they wield, I do not believe that they are as ahead as it seems. They are not this big Leviathan like they want us to think. It's very intimidating, right? But I think on a lot of issues, they're not even winning. If you look at the major issues that they're pushing, defund the police, Green New Deal, a lot of the legislation that they want to push through, voter ID laws, they are not in line with what the American people are believing. This is one of the reasons why I have been talking about polls so often. If you notice, I've been writing a lot about polls, and I've been talking a lot about it on my live streams, because I know that you can't always trust polls 100%, but they do give us an idea of what people's attitudes are towards things. Nobody likes to defund the police. People don't like the Green New Deal like that. I mean, that kind of tends to fluctuate depending on the poll that's being given, but still. Voter ID, most people are on board with that. And I can list off other areas where the left is not changing minds, at least not the hard left, because you still have a lot of moderates on the left. You still have a lot of moderates who vote Democrat, and I think we overlook those people. I think those people will be voting Republican in the 2022 and 2024. Not all of them, but I think a big enough chunk of them are, because the Democratic Party and the hard left, the AOC types, Cori Bush, I mean, you saw her. I will have private security, but I'm going to make sure that Black people don't have police. Now, I know that she didn't say it explicitly. This is my opinion. But when they say defund the police, I think most of these folks just mean, again, they just want to reallocate some funds to try to promote better interactions between the police and the citizenry, and also to decrease those interactions. Again, like I've always said, I can take those on a case-by-case basis. You tell me what a city is doing when they're diverting funds, I'll take a look at that. We can talk about it, and I will either agree or disagree with it. But my criticism comes to the people who want fewer police on the streets. And I think more of these people than it seems do. Even though they won't come out and say it, they know that the rhetoric that they're using and the policies or the method of funding that they're using is resulting in fewer police. Some of them because they can't afford to hire more. Some of them because they quit because they're being demonized all the time. Some of them because they're stopping police academies from actually putting their officers on the street. That's what's happening here in Austin. So yeah, these people do want fewer police. That's not popular. So even though the left controls all those institutions, they're not winning hearts and minds at the rate that they need to be successful. This is an opportunity for us. On the conservative side, we have ways of subverting their hold on a lot of these things. We have alternative media, we have YouTube, and we have other ways that's why they try to censor conservative thought so much, because they know that we can get around it, but they can't censor us all. So we are in this battle, and we are not losing by as much. And I think in some areas we're winning. I am a little bit white. I've become a little bit more white pilled over the past few weeks because I have been watching what's been happening, looking at these polls and also looking at these trends. I think that we need to really examine this and really have a more accurate perspective on the culture war right now, because it's not quite as bleak as it seems. So that was a digression. I didn't mean to talk about that, but it's worth mentioning. Again, this is what these parents are doing. This should be an example for the rest of the conservative movement. And by the way, this is what they're doing is exactly how Democrats think. Democrats are not afraid to go after their local politics. They're not afraid to mobilize. They're not afraid to pour funding into this. We should be funding these people who are trying to take these school board positions. We should be trying to get them resources, because this is what the Democrats do. And they do it over a period of time. Like I've said, there was a reason why I almost had to call Beto O'Rourke my senator. This is Texas. It's supposed to be a red state. Democrats are not supposed to be making inroads, but they are. Georgia, it flipped. Didn't go for Trump. And the Senate seats went to Democrats. Now, don't come at me with the voter fraud stuff, because that's not what did it. It was a 10-year effort on the part of Stacey Abrams and her people that made this happen. So we need to be thinking in the way that they are. We need to be able to go into our uncharted territory and start making inroads. Hopefully, this will be the beginning. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Am I being too optimistic? Do I need to be more black-pilled? Let's see. Change will start at the local level. GOP needs to get on board. They sure do. And I hope they are smart enough to realize that. We'll have to see on Benjamin Dixon. I don't really know who that is. I think I've heard the name, but I'm not sure who that is. I'll check him out. Benjamin Dixon. Let's see. It happened here in El Paso, a Dem city. A young father skunked an incumbent school board member in a special election last month. He ran on an anti-CRT platform and won big. See, that's what I'm talking about. I would love to talk to that guy. We need to highlight these people, because the conservative movement deserves to know that these people are out here doing the work. We need to chip away at their advantage. Eventually, we might get an edge. I think if we play our cards right, that's exactly what will happen. Because you have to remember, the Democrats are alienating people right now, and it's not good for them. We tend to focus mostly on the presidential election. Some say the local races are just as important, if not more. I think they're more important. Your mayor has more control over your life than the president does. Your mayor can enact a policy that will affect your life way more profoundly than what the president can do. Let's see. White pilled. Okay, for the uninitiated, white pilled means being optimistic. Like, you take the white pill and you're more optimistic about the future. The black pill is when you think that we're all going to die and that everything's just going to collapse and nothing good is going to happen. No, we need more optimism these days. Yeah, we do. And I think there is reason to be optimistic. So I'm good with that. All right. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, because I want to talk about this again. I want to talk about this a lot. So I'll stay tuned. But before I proceed, again, don't forget to head on over to libertynation.com. A proud sponsor of A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. And you can sign up for the daily briefing there. You can read all the awesome articles written by myself and my colleagues. You can also subscribe to the Member Zone for premium content. And you can get cutting edge analysis. That's what I like about it. Doesn't have a lot of the spin. It's got a lot of nuance to it. And I'll believe me, they don't just let us just write what everybody else is writing. So at Liberty Nation, you're going to get a unique view on the issues that are prevalent in the media. So remember to check out new and original material on libertynation.com. Conservative news where truth matters. Now, lastly, what was I going to talk about lastly? My memory is failing me. Right. So CNN. I'm not going to talk for too long on this, because I want to kind of wait and see how this unfolds. But I think I may have found the narrative that the activist media is going to be pushing over the next few years, especially when they don't know whether or not former President Donald Trump is going to run again in 2024. Now, I do think that they're going to push this narrative even if he decides not to, but I think it'll take a different form because it won't be quite as relevant. But CNN right now is trying to push the narrative that in the last days of Trump's presidency, he was trying to stage a coup. He was trying to stage a coup d'etat where he could take over the government and prevent Biden from taking office. I'm sorry, I didn't expect to laugh at that, but it is funny. Now, we all know that Trump disputed the results of the election. He still does. And we do know that he was trying to do everything that he could to expose whatever fraud that he believed was happening so that they couldn't steal the election. This is what was going through his head and what was going through the heads of people who are around him. But what they're trying to do right now, what CNN's trying to do, is trying to make it sound like he was trying to actually illegally seize power and to remain in office. Now, this report, it says that there were a series of events or a series of actions that President Trump took that constituted an assault on democracy. And they say, quote, which looks more and more like an attempted coup. And these items, these actions, they include the following that I'm going to read right now. First, quote, Trump pressured acting DOJ officials like acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen on December 27th to, quote, just say that the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. Now, this is according to notes written by Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue. And this was shared with House investigators. The next day, quote, at least one acting DOJ official, Jeffrey Clark, there's a lot of Jeffs in the White House, Jeffrey Clark, who was in charge of the civil division, apparently bought into Trump's lies or wanted to assuage him and drafted a letter suggesting that there were election irregularities in the election. In parentheses, there weren't. But it was rebuffed by other top acting officials. Okay. Officials like Rosen's chief of staff, Patrick Hovakimian, drafted letters of resignation in case his boss was pushed out in favor of Clark. So they're saying that some members of Jeffrey Rosen's staff had drafted letters of resignation in case Trump fired Rosen and replaced him with Jeffrey Clark because Jeffrey Clark was supposedly friendly to what Trump was trying to do. CNN also claims, quote, it's the threat of a block of DOJ resignations among the acting officials that may have stopped Trump from a last-minute firing of officials at Justice. And Trump allegedly trying to pressure Jeffrey Rosen and Donahue came one day after Attorney General William Barr resigned. Now then, CNN provides no evidence showing that this is true. So I can't, one, it's CNN, two, they didn't provide any evidence, so I can't take this at face value. Now, here's my thing. Let's just be honest here. Is it possible that Trump asked Jeffrey Rosen to say that the election was corrupt and then let him and the Republican congressman take care of it? Of course it's possible. I'm gonna make some people angry, but this sounds like something that Trump would do. Honestly, it does. If he truly believed that the election was being stolen, then yeah, I could see him doing something like this. Is this a coup attempt? Well, let's see. Let me go ahead and look that up. Because I don't know what the word coup means, apparently. CNN doesn't think I know or you know. Coup, quote, a sudden, violent, and illegal seizure of power from a government. I mean, was Trump punching people? No. Was he trying to actually seize the government? Now, if he was trying to get members of the military to back him up on this, now you might have yourself a coup. But this ain't a coup. This is him disputing an election that he thought was unfair, whether he's right or wrong. I'm not speaking to that. You guys know where I stand on that. I mean, when Al Gore was disputing the results of that election, was he trying to do a coup? Of course not. Now, is it possible that Trump might have fired Attorney General Rosen and replaced him with Jeffrey Clark? Sure, that's possible. But in the CNN's report, at least from what I'm seeing here, it doesn't seem like he was actually taking that step. And what a lot of CNN has done is they've used the actions of people who say they believed something about what Trump was going to do and have presented it as fact. Now, you probably heard about that book that came out a few weeks ago. CNN was really hyping it up before it came out. And they were talking about how General Milley, I think Mark Milley is his name. He was the one that was talking about white rage in that testimony before Congress. And if the reports are true, which, by the way, Milley has not confirmed it, but Milley was trying to prevent a coup attempt. Like he thought that Trump was going to try to take it over like Hitler or like a dictator. And he, if the reports are true, he literally thought that President Trump was going to try to pull off a military coup and stay in office, despite having no evidence of this happening. Milley, if this is true, Milley sounds like a delusional, paranoid type of person because there was no evidence that that was going to happen. I get he doesn't like Trump, but TDS is a hell of a drug. It will cause you to believe things that you know aren't true, but you have to believe it because you hate Trump so much. So it has to be true. But again, CNN reported that as if that was the final word. Like as if, oh, okay, well, if he thought this, then that means that Trump was going to do a coup and he just decided not to. And of course, Trump responded to that, which he should have. Trump was never going to try to stage a coup attempt. CNN knows it. Everybody knows it. Was there anything else in here worth mentioning? This is all part of an investigation, I suppose, that the House of Representatives are doing to either create or discover evidence that Trump was doing all kinds of Hitler type stuff before he left office. Look, I don't care how you feel about Trump. There are areas where I can't stand him. There are areas where I think he did some good things, just like with any other president. I'm sure I'll be saying the same about Biden. But the fact that they're trying to push this narrative just shows that they're missing the plot. And I do think that there's a very good chance that that the reason that the House is, and these are House Democrats, by the way, why they're launching this investigation is because they want to come up with stuff that they can use against the right when 22 rolls around and when 2024 rolls around. It's the reason why they're trying to draw out the Capitol riots for as long as they can. There's a reason why they're trying to milk that. And it's because Democrats, like I've said before, are in a very bad position right now. They've got a situation at the border that they're mishandling. And I'll be talking about that more next week. I wrote some stuff on it, and there's some other stuff that's coming up that isn't very good. They've got an inflation issue. Jobless numbers starting to do a little bit better. So that's encouraging. But as far as their agenda that they're trying to ram through, nobody likes it. And it doesn't look likely that it's going to go through because you've got Manchin and Sinema in the Senate. So there's not a whole lot going on for the Democrats that are very good. On top of that, Vice President Kamala Harris's poll numbers are underwater. Her approval rating is at 45% right now. It has gotten so bad that Democratic operatives had to call this emergency dinner meeting to figure out ways to rehabilitate her image, because the fact that she is inept at being the border czar and she's inept at other areas, the fact that she's running a toxic work environment and that even a left-wing media outlet like Politico was willing to expose it, it's not looking good for her. And I still stand by what I said. I don't think Biden's going to serve out the full first term. He's too old. I think he'll step down after the midterms. And if and when that happens, Kamala Harris will be our president. So it's not looking good for them because they want to win in 2024. And even if Biden makes it to 2024, I don't think he's going to run again. And whoever is going to replace him, which at this point, it'd be stupid to tap Kamala Harris because people just don't like her. I mean, I used to call her Senator Lock a Negro Up. I mean, even her reputation as district attorney isn't that great. It's going to work against her. If they put somebody else in that position, it's still going to backfire because Biden's administration is just not handling stuff very well. It just seems like Biden doesn't have people around him who understand how to navigate these fields. It seems like they keep kowtowing to the way far left wing of the party when I think most of their base is more moderate. They're more able to find maybe even common ground with Republicans. I think that's what people want, but it just ain't happening. So they do have to come up with these narratives that Trump is a Hitler-like figure so that if he were to run again, they can say, oh no, he was trying to pull off a coup before he was out of office. Or even if it's somebody like DeSantis, who is what people perceive as Trump, a better version of Trump, they still have to try to cast him in that way. They have to say, oh, well, your supporter supported somebody who tried to pull off a coup. This will be part of their narrative. I don't think it's going to be all of it unless Trump runs. If he doesn't run, this will be something that they use. And then they'll also come up with other ways to supplement it. So I just wanted to kind of put that out into the ether. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll realize that this is a stupid line of attack, but the investigations aren't done yet. So we'll see. So what do you guys think? There is more to this, but it's not really worth getting into just yet. It's just something that I want to kind of keep an eye on. These fools can't wean themselves off Trump. Yeah, they're trying to get it. They miss Trump. I don't care what they say. They miss Trump because when Trump was in office, their ratings were excellent. They have tanked. I want to say that over the past week, CNN hasn't even reached 1 million viewers. That's crazy. That's crazy. Dems take things too far, and that's why they're losing credibility. I agree. They go too extreme. That's the problem. I mean, you say you want to defund the police when most black people don't want to defund the police. Like they just don't want to do that. You're saying that that voter ID is racist, but over 70% of black people think that voter ID should be required when you go to cast a vote. I mean, they're just making a lot of stupid mistakes. The left was fantasizing about a Trump coup attempt since 2018. Yeah, they were, because they were talking about it even then. They're like, oh, is he going to pull off a coup if he loses? All based pretty much on Trump not answering baited questions about leaving peacefully if he lost. Yes. And I do think Trump did that on purpose because he wanted them to look stupid by pretending that he was going to pull off a coup attempt. But we'll see. I mean, I hope he doesn't run again. I think I would rather see somebody else. Like what he's doing now, he's in a more of a kingmaker role. He has influence. I think he's enjoying it. But I'm not sure if he could run again and win. He would win the nomination. But if the let's just say if he runs, American voters are going to be in a very uncomfortable situation, especially ones that don't necessarily go all the way Republican or go all the way Democrat. Because I still stand on this. Biden won because people didn't like Trump. They didn't vote for Biden. They voted against Trump. But Biden's doing so horribly and the Democrats are doing so horribly. If they put somebody up against Trump, it will be probably people won't even come out to vote. That it'll be like 10 people who come out to vote, and those people will decide who our next president is. But anyway, I'm going to sign off. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend. And I will be back because I do want to talk about that Twitter video that I showed you. But until then, keep your minds free.